Welcome to the Blackburn End podcast. Another week, another Rovers win, and another Rovers clean sheet. What a time to be alive. My wife said to me this morning that our 90-minute podcast felt a bit long, but my response was that when we're playing like this, I don't want to stop talking Rovers. It's absolutely brilliant being a bit, having this positivity around the place. But let's get into those headlines. So Rovers still have a 100% league record at Ewood as we see off QPR 2-0. It's another clean sheet for the boys in blue and white, and obviously that guy in yellow that's between the sticks. Dolan is one of many standout performers, but it's actually Cantwell that people are talking about on social media. And now we've got 2 away trips in a week. Is it going to be too much for Rovers? But let's discuss with my man Mark. Mark, how much of the game did you actually miss due to that ticket debacle at Ewood?
I think I came in on the 19th minute. It was my own fault. For some reason, I wasn't that excited about the game. And I did message my mate and say, he said, what time are we going? And I said, do you know what? I'm not that fussed if I don't get there till half time. Rovers now manufactured a way to make it not far off half time when I arrived in. I did watch it, the first 20 minutes. The club shop had it on Sky Sports behind a mannequin. So when I was talking about the Hedges one, I did literally see it from further away than my actual seat. But yeah.
Well, to be honest, first half, it was, you probably didn't miss a hell of a lot. So let's get into that game. So you was a little bit late into Ewood, but obviously you saw the team lineups and so on. What did you think of the team lineup when it came out? I mean, I there was no surprises there with the back four remaining kind of what it was and everything. So was you happy?
Yeah, I was. I was hoping that in the nicest possible way, Lewis Baker wasn't starting because I didn't think he was going to displace Travis or Tronstad. Neither did I want him to, and I wanted a bit more creativity. So from that aspect, yeah, I was quite happy with Weimann coming in.
Yeah, and Hedges moves across to that left, and now we need to break this down eventually. But let's get into this little thing that we've got with the audio, the reaction that we have. So let's just play this.
I'll tell you what, Mark, I'm getting used to this. Yeah, unbeaten, winning at home, seeing games out, have a new creative player in Cantwell. You know, that first half, I did feel like it was a game which was just going to be a real bland game. I was getting a bit bored, and obviously another silly red card in our favour was brilliant. And all I kept thinking to myself was, are we going to do the same as last time against Preston and do something silly? But no, we've learnt our lessons. We went out and we got the win. Astounded. I mean, I'm just enjoying it while it lasts. How long it's going to last for, I don't know. I mean, it's football. We can't win them all. But at the moment, I just feel like the lads are doing their jobs and doing them well. Yeah, great stuff.
Hello, Mikey. Well, we've got a 100% home record. We are absolutely nailed on for promotion here. Come on. We've got invincible season on the go. But let's be honest, that first half was pretty poor, and I did have flashbacks to Preston. I think the only thing that made me think, ooh, was half-time. Cantwell came on. Right. Where's he playing? Left-hand side. Found loads of space. Absolutely instrumental in that second half. But the big thing for me was we upped the tempo. The tempo was all wrong in the first half. It was all wrong at Deepdale. It was all right in that second half. And I cannot wait to break this down on the pod.
I just love the energy you put into them. It feels so... so positive after, and I know it's tongue-in-cheek about being invincible, but just imagine, Mark, if we go unbeaten throughout the season after everyone was slagging us off and, you know, from worst to first, that would be amazing. But let's break down that first half. I was bored. It was the ref, I thought, was poor. Obviously, Premier League ref, so doesn't have VAR and things like that. Makes a few silly decisions. Obviously, is making decisions based on if he had VAR, so he wasn't being too decisive, I'd say. There was the silly one with Hedges where Hedges got the yellow card. Did you feel like having that ref ruin the first half, or do you just think it was just a bland first half?
I can see what you mean, but I think that was a half I've seen before for Rovers. It was a half I've seen before this season under Eustace. But it's not a criticism because I think even when we're not playing well, first 5 minutes aside, we don't really look like conceding. We still look solid. So if our worst is that we still look pretty solid, albeit very boring, you can kind of cope with that as long as it's not the norm for me.
Yeah, I got a bit frustrated at times because the game was there. There was chances, and Dolan had a
Yeah.
couple with a lovely run. He had a great he had a great game,
Yeah,
to
he
be
did.
honest. I mean, Danny Bath got man of the match, but Dolan was in with a shout, and he had a very lively
Yeah.
first half. And we tweeted
He
out
did.
saying about how there was something there, and you felt like he was going to be the one to unlock. He had a lovely little run. Okay, this shot was at the keeper, but cut inside, beat two players, and I could see there was something there. Hedges was frustrating the hell out of me, and everyone knows, I'm a fan of Hedges. But did you feel the same negativity as I was feeling towards Hedges in that first half?
As good as Dolan was and his energy, and he was trying. I mean, we talked about Robbie Savage last week. He was trying to give us that spark, give us that energy in a game that's quite flat. But for all the good he did, I thought Hedges was as poor as I've ever seen him, to the point where I would have hooked him at halftime. I really would. Now, maybe he would have done had Pickering been able to stay on the pitch. I don't know. And actually, as it transpired, it was a great tactical decision. I think there was obviously illness behind it, but it was a good tactical decision. But yeah, I couldn't believe how poor he was. And he actually was getting worse as the half was going on. So he then couldn't even play a 5-yard ball as the half was finishing.
Yeah, it was uncharacteristic of him because it was something. We put, like I said, we put the tweet out, and it was about how Hedges was uncharacteristic, and someone said about me doing the stats because I'd started doing stats on Hedges about how I felt like if he plays well, we play well, and if he plays poorly, we play poorly, and how effective he is, how effectual he is to what we're trying to achieve. And I'm going to have to revisit that, but it turned out that he can play poor and we can win. But for me, he was the one player that just looked off it. Vyman, he didn't have a hell of a lot. Ohashi had a really good opportunity in that first half, and Dolan put in a cracking ball. Let's be honest, that ball across him was great, but it was just the wrong decision for him. But he didn't have much to do, did he? It seemed to be more the people behind him that were doing that work.
Yeah, I mean, on that Dolan one where he played the ball through, if you go back just a couple of seconds before that, Ohashi's layoff to him and hold up was fantastic as well. It was a surprising decision from Ohashi. He's in form, he's got lots of confidence. I thought he might just nudge it out of his feet and have a shot. We've seen he can use his left foot. I just wondered whether he looked a little bit tired, Ohashi. There was lots of effort there, but he just looked like he dropped 5%. And I am worried about that. And that might be just because it's in the back of my mind coming up to the winter months, which, I know you're fortunate enough not to be up north right now, Mike, but it looks like winter has well and truly arrived today. I've got soaked through. Yeah, I thought he dropped 5%, did Ohashi. But he wasn't alone in that. Like you said, Vyman didn't really get involved in the game much, whereas Hedges was poor. I thought Vyman just didn't get himself involved enough. And other than the defence looking pretty solid, there was only Dolan really that came out of that first half with any that you could give a pat on the back to.
Yeah, I mean, there was no one other than Hedges where I looked at and thought they were poor.
Nope.
It was just they were just meh. And we'll get into the red card in a second, so we'll just talk up until the 45th minute. There was a couple of yellow cards, obviously, for Hedges and Travis, which kind of stumped them a little bit. But going back to the Ohashi and Hedges, and I'm looking at the team now, and They could be players. I've said this about Hedges. Hedges needs a break now and again. He's not a player that can play week in, week out and keep it at a level. If he was, he wouldn't be playing for us. So he's going to have his negatives, and his negatives are he can't play his game for a prolonged period. He does need a break, and Ohashi could be one of those. You've said multiple times, he's had a long season in Japan. He's come across to us. He might need a break, and that's obviously where Gay can come in. Hopefully, Harry Leonard can show what he can do. So there is a place for Ohashi now to start having a break, and he could be one of those that just needs to be in and out the team to keep himself fresh. Vyman, like you said, I mean, he's an older guy now, so he's going to need his rotation. The one player that I was surprised about with how well he's played is Danny Batt, because he is a good player. I know he's a good player, but he seems to be putting in quite consistent performances now, which is proving to be very important for us, especially with Carter moving out on the right. So, yeah, first half, very bland. But like you said at the top, we've seen this before and we've gone on not to do anything. And you look at last week against Preston. Preston go down to 10 men and we can't break them down. Now, QPR go down to 10 men. When I saw that happen, I saw the reaction of the players, and Travis, being Travis, was straight in the ref's ear. The fact that he looked down at him and he was just like, then holding his head. It was like, oh my God, I've just seen a broken leg kind of thing. It was absolutely beautiful drama from Travis. Did you actually feel like it was a red card? Because, instantly? Because I just thought, it's a bit of a tough challenge. I wasn't sure it was a red.
It looked what it looked on the replay for me. He looked like he overran it, and he lunged in to try and win the ball. But I think you're absolutely spot on. The way Travis then went over, you just presumed, oh my God, this guy's broke his ankle here. It's facing the other way or something. There's something horrific going on, and I think that played into the referee's mind.
Oh, it was beautiful stuff. I mean, you'd hate it if it was against you. But there was no arguments really from them, so it must have been one where, I mean, I've seen a couple of replays from it. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's a hard challenge, but it's one of those where if he doesn't get sent off, you're saying it's a sending off. But if it's a sending off, you think, okay, it's a little bit harsh, but it went in our favour. There was a couple of decisions that didn't go in our favour, but what I loved was how we've learnt our lessons from like the Preston game. Now it is different being at home compared to being away in at Preston, but Cantwell comes on for Pickering. Hedges shifts across to left back. What was your feelings then? Did you feel like the formation was changing, or did you think it was just keep going and see what happens?
Initially, I was surprised that Cantwell was lining up on the left-hand side, but within the first movements of the ball being back in play, it was obvious that Hedges was pretty much playing where he did in the first half, and Cantwell was just given a free roll. And at that point, I thought, okay, now I can see this, because against Preston, they were so well drilled, we couldn't break them down, and we were moving the ball from side to side, but we weren't really doing it with any purpose. We were not dragging any of them out of shape. So the fact that Cantwell then caused them a completely different problem that they weren't expecting and weren't used to, and he was able to, he's so clever, so he was able to pick up the pockets of where he wanted to be, meant that the fullback couldn't just stay where he wanted to do. Do I go to close Cantwell down? Do I not? The midfielder's the same. And you could see immediately it caused them a big problem. And I think that opened up the space for us. And then getting the goal early on is also cannot be underestimated. I think if you start to give teams confidence when they're down to 10 men that actually they can hold out, it plays into their hands as well. Whereas if you get that early goal, they're going to have to come out of their shape a bit more, and then it just plays into it, doesn't it? So it was a bit of a perfect storm that first 5 minutes.
And I love his movement. The one thing I saw from him when he came on was you see players when they're on the wing and they put their head down and they're trying to just drive constantly, or they're facing the way they want it to be played. And I just love the fact he had that lateral movement facing the player, so that when that ball was coming in, he was ready to take a touch and go where he wanted to go. And you could see that quality. When you see him, you can see a player that was worth 40 million. Well, rumoured to be in the realms of £40 million bids or whatever it was, silly money back in the day. You can actually see that. It was lovely to see him. We will get onto Todd Cantwell in a little bit more detail later in the pod, but we get the goal. Ounce of luck, took a deflection. Sometimes these go into the keeper's arms. It slows the ball down, goes over, whatever. It goes in, and I just felt like then it just ignited Ewood. It seemed like it was inevitable then, and that's what I really like this time. Where sometimes we've gone a goal up and then we sit back, and it's then panic stations for the next 40 minutes, and I didn't get that feeling. Now you was obviously in the Blackburn end. Did it feel like we were sitting back, or did it look like for you we was going forward?
No, it looked like we were completely in control from that point onwards. You're absolutely right. I think Rovers last season, watching England in the Euros was like watching Rovers every week. We'd go ahead and we'd just sit back into shape, and you think we can't do this. I actually think, ironically, Rovers probably could do that now. I think we've seen that under Eustace, but we don't. We move the ball around. We didn't. We just controlled the game completely. We wanted the game was played at the tempo we wanted it to be played at. When we wanted to slow it down and make them run, we did. When we wanted to quicken the play up in the final third, we did. It was a very, very professional performance, I thought.
Yeah, and the point that you made about Cantwell effectively playing that free role, it felt like it was right. We're playing 10 men versus 10 men, but we've got a wild card. Yeah. We're gonna set up our formation very similar to yours, and then we've just got this player buzzing around creating, and he goes and gets his assist. A beautiful ball. Keeper obviously doesn't know whether to come for it or not, and Danny Back gets that goal, and that was it then. And then it seemed to be that was game over. Everyone may as well go home, but it lifted the place, didn't it?
Yeah, I think exactly what you've said. Rovers looked at it this time and thought, okay, if we carry on doing what we did at Preston, it's probably not going to work. It might do, it might not. But what we basically did was say, okay, we'll have 10 against 10, and our extra man is going to be Todd Cantwell. He's not going to fit into the tactical shape. He's going to go wherever he wants to go. And he's too good a player to allow that space to. And they couldn't do anything about it because we had an extra man. So if that's our solution to it, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, we can gush over the performance of Dolan in the first half, Cantwell second half. What did you think of Dolan second half?
I think
obviously Cantwell's taking a little bit of that position, didn't he?
He has. I thought Dolan's energy is going to be something that's going to cause us a bit of a headache in a lovely one, but in the sense of, do you now move Cantwell into the 10 role? Because that's where naturally you would get the most space on a football pitch. But actually, Dolan's pressing and starting of the press, he seems to be the trigger. So when he goes for the press, everybody goes. So he must be the one that when we're training and practicing, that they say, right, he's the one who's going to decide whether we press as a team or not. Occasionally, Ohashi does it, and nobody really follows, which isn't just the team not doing it. That will be a tactical thing where Ohashi's decided to do it. But when Dolan presses, everybody presses. So he must be our trigger. He must be the one that decides when we do it or not. And that's quite critical. That shows me that they've got some tactical trust in him that I didn't necessarily think he had. I thought Dolan's got lots of qualities, but I wouldn't have necessarily said he was that player. But his energy is quite important at the moment.
Yeah, we have got a mailbag question, so we'll break that down a little bit more shortly. So Ohashi goes off 65th minute. We start making some substitutions. Did you feel like it was just like, let's see out the game now?
I think Ohashi needed to come off. I thought he really did look tired. But yeah, I think the rest of them were almost either protecting the players who were coming off, or it was about getting minutes into the others. It was that comfortable. It was only 2, but it felt like if it was 4, there was no difference in the game. I couldn't see a way they were going to come back into it. They very nearly did, though.
They did. We had 19 shots to their 6, but they did have opportunities. They did score a goal. Now, when I looked back at that goal, let's talk about that goal that they scored that was disallowed. So ultimately, the whistle went, so everyone did stop.
Yes.
So Pears could have saved it or anything like that, but it wasn't a foul, was it?
No, it didn't look a foul from the other end of the ground. It looked very, very fortunate.
It's such a weird ref. Such a weird ref.
Hmm?
This is the problem with football. We've moaned about EFL refs and Prem refs. They've all got VAR that they can fall back on, and it did feel like he was not out of his. Was he out of his depth? Maybe because he's so reliant on using VAR. So maybe he was out of his depth coming back and just reffing a game without all the assistant stuff that he's got. But yeah. Danny Bat, it was Danny Bat, wasn't it, that just threw himself to the ground? But yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The whistle did go. Everyone did stop, so it might not necessarily have gone to being the goal, but I thought it was harsh on QPR.
Yeah, that said, I still don't think we'd have drawn. It did. I don't feel. I mean, I am really jinxing this now, but I don't feel right now that we've got a capitulation in us. I think we've still got enough about us and enough experience to turn around and go, okay, well, we'll just get control of the ball, we'll make them work, or we'll close the game down as we've done in others. I mean, obviously, with 2 games this week, so we're going to capitulate in both of them now. I've just said that, but yeah.
Well, they are 2 very difficult games, that we do need to discuss, but I felt like with this one, if they had scored, it was more likely we'd go and win 3-1 than it would have gone to 2-2, just because of the attitude of the players and the feeling around Ewood Park. It feels way more positive. Someone shared today on a couple of fan forums about the fans last year screaming at Steve Wagger and like the really toxic atmosphere. And it's like, what a difference a year makes. And it's absolutely true. You get some results on the pitch, then it starts to work. And you said, credit where it's due. John Eustace is coming. He's done his job, and he seems to have, sorted everything out that needed to be sorted for this year. Decisions have been made in the back with signings, and they seem to have come well. So everything does seem really positive, but it is really strange that over the last few years, we seem very positive under JDT that we've got this exciting swashbuckling football. We go forwards. We're either going to win 4-0, lose 4-0. But if you don't score in the first few minutes, you're probably going to lose. And we was really excited. I was super excited about this football. I was like, give JDT 10 years, give Broughton 10 years. And actually, we were probably blinded to a lot of the stuff that needed to get sorted just because we were getting a little bit bored under Mowbray, maybe. There was no real plan B, and it just seemed like quite a boring way of playing. And then JDT comes in, it's like, wow, this is exciting. And now we're actually seeing football where there is a plan B, there is a change. We are willing to make a difference, make a change that makes a difference on the pitch. And it's lovely to see, isn't it, that we've got these plan B, plan C. We've got these different players that can come in and do something different. Do you feel like it's an exciting time to be a Rovers fan?
Yeah. I think we've got, I've said it a few times now, I think we've got it in us to win games in different fashions. I think we've got the experience. We've got a little bit of everything. That said, and it can quite easily happen in the Championship, if we go 7 games without a win and we have a first half like we did, it'll be completely different. They'll be booing them off, and all of a sudden it'll be, oh, Eustace is boring, his football's rubbish. I think there is an element of, you've got to remember the bigger picture here, and JDT's football was good most of the time, but it was either very, very good or very, very bad, wasn't it? And it was frustrating. I think Eustace is always going to verge around that middle ground, but that's probably what you need in the Championship. There was no way we would go and tough out an away victory really under JDT. under Eustace. Would it surprise you this week if we went and got 2 draws, a win and a draw? No. And they're really tough games. Under Thomason, if we didn't score in the first 10 minutes against Coventry tomorrow night, as we record this, it wouldn't surprise you if you'd have lost 4-0 either. You know,
I mean,
I think...
No, carry on.
I was just going to say, I think we're always in games now. I think there was an inevitability, wasn't there, about Thompson's? Like we've said loads of times. I know we said like 10 minutes, but it pretty much was. If you didn't score in those 10 minutes, that was it, done. Whereas I actually think even if we're 3-1 down tomorrow night with 10 minutes to go, there's still a chance we could go and get something from the game. And it's the players look like they believe in what they're doing, and that's the big key.
Definitely, you can see there's an atmosphere there. All these socials go out of them in the ground, and they all seem quite happy. There's players which seem quite within themselves that have come out. And if you told me last year that signing the likes of Danny Bath-Fireman and McFadden were going to be as important as what they've turned out to be, because I think McFadden is doing a lot behind the scenes. Every time I see them training in these videos, I keep my eye out for him, and he's obviously got an eye on coaching, hasn't he? Because just the way he's doing things and the way you can see him talking to people, he's a proper pro. And you said that you'd spoken to Coventry fans, and they all sang his praises, didn't they, about what he does? But Danny Batt as well, and Fireman. These are championship players that know how to get results, and if our really talented players around them can learn off them, it's only going to do us good. I never expected Danny Batt to come in and get a man of the match or anything like that, and here he is.
Yeah, I think I would have Danny Bath. I'd have my Danny Bath in my starting 11 right now. I think if we were picking an 11, and I love Hayden Carter, so it would cause me a problem. But I would have Danny Bath in my starting 11 now. I think, if everybody was fit.
Well, not to put any disrespect on Hyam, I don't see Hyam in the same light that I've seen him in the last 2 years. I'm trying to articulate how I feel, because I'm not 100% how I feel yet. I just feel like he's not at the level he was in this team, and it's not that he's got worse. I just think that maybe others around him have elevated themselves maybe a little bit more. So Danny Batt has done some really good work, and Hayden Carter's done some really good work. Whereas Hyam, he just seems to have been a solid player. Can you see where I'm coming from?
Absolutely. I think there was a spell where Dom Hyam was first name on the team sheet, and now it's a debate whether you'd have him in your starting partnership, I suppose, at the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice headache to have. Don't get me wrong. I think we've got some experience there. We've got players that are coming into being experienced players. We've got some younger players, but everyone's learning together, and I think it's really nice. And now looking at the fan reactions on Twitter, obviously it's all really positive at the moment because we're winning. But Tommy's put, "Come on, that's how you play against 10. What a second half display. The hard work and tempo never slowed down. The commitment from this team, Eustace has ingrained, is so special. Top effort from everyone. Fortress Ewood." I think that's spot on. People saying Todd Cantwell can play. Todd Cantwell is getting all the praise he deserves, and I'm very excited about him. But Danny Batt has been immense. Such a good signing on a free, and he's become a starter, and he's barely put a foot wrong. Do you agree with them so far?
100%.
We've got sensational, much better against 10 than last week. And I'd put what I love is we're learning from our mistakes. Feels weird, and it does feel weird, because sometimes you look at the Rovers and you just know that there's something coming. But to go this far into the season and not have anything that's too negative, it's pretty nice. But we've got the 3-word reactions. What's your favourite so far?
I mean, very similar themes, really, all very positive. Lots of praise for Dolan, lots of praise for Cantwell. Now, I'm going to sound really old here, but apparently the new phrase is cooking. And we've got Eustace Ball cooking. Cantwell is cooking. There's loads of this going on. But I think my favourites there that we've got are from Fat West 78. We've got Super Smashing Great. Gotta love a bit of Jim Bowen. Zane Kuwait. Creativity, skills and persistence. But let's not get carried away, Rovers fans. We've got from Harrison Crook on X, Open Top Bus.
People are getting ahead of themselves, and we know it's tongue-in-cheek. It's just a good laugh, isn't it?
Yeah, the Dingles are telling us to pipe down. Come on, we're having a laugh. Yes, they do need to mind the gap, but let's be honest, in a week's time, they'll be saying it back to us. We are joking. We don't think we're going to get promoted. We don't think we're going to win the league. By Easter, it'll just be April.
Exactly. So normally I'll give you a quick one-word answer to react on the game. Was you happy with the performance and results? It's obviously a yes, isn't it?
Very.
Good man. Okay. So we move on to games, not easy ones. Coventry away. It's not a place we've enjoyed going to. Recent results have been draws or Coventry wins.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a bit of illness in the squad. There's a couple of injuries happening. Do you think that we're going to see quite a bit of rotation, or is it going to be a patchwork first team again?
It's an interesting one, this, isn't it? Because there's a couple of players you've got, like you say, absolutely spot on about Hedges. I always worry about his injuries, but equally his performance levels dip. Do you rest him for this one? Or do you rest him? You know, do you keep going with the players and keep flogging them if you think that's your best team? With, right, well, then if the fitness levels drop and the data drops a bit, we'll change them on Saturday. I think that's the way Eustace will go. So I think he'll just take it one game at a time and he'll go to Coventry with what he thinks is his best team. I don't see masses of changes. It wouldn't surprise me if it was the same team. I do think Ohashi needs a rest, though. I think I would take him out. I also think he's more effective off the bench right now. And I think that option of him buzzing around, coming on, believing he's going to score a goal in the last 20 minutes, if it was 0-0 and he comes off the bench, I feel like he's probably going to add something more than Gay does if he comes off the bench. That said, you could see Gay causing absolute carnage, couldn't you, if you were pinging the ball in the box. So, but we don't seem to do that. So I personally would again start Gay and I would have Ohashi on the bench. I'd possibly keep the same starting 11 other than that, though.
Yeah, I mean, Coventry aren't in the best shape at the moment. When I say it's a difficult place to go, it's a loud place. It's the Championship. Top can play bottom and lose. So it's a midweek away game that we're not, we're notorious at not being fantastic in the midweek away games. So whilst, yes, I understand Coventry have only got one win all season with a couple of draws, it's not going to be easy. So I do want to see some change. I do want to see Gay come in. I do want to see probably a change on the wing, but it just depends who's available with this illness at the moment. So I can see him being forced into keeping the same side. And if we go into this game and we just try and control the ball and let the ball do the work and not necessarily running everyone into the ground and, try and do something a little bit more boring, I'm all for it. Obviously, the fans travelling are not going to be all for it, but it's. I mean, when I went to that one last time, it was we lost 1-0. It was loud. It was a horrible place. It was just a game where it just wasn't working for us, and I just want us to go there because this game should mean a lot to Eustace because of his time with because he was at Coventry, wasn't he? Did he catch it? Yeah, he was. Yeah. So hopefully he's got a plan there. But I can see us going and just trying to bore the life out of them and just try and keep control of the game and then just try and pick off a couple of chances. I mean, they're not the best, but it means nothing, does it?
No, and I think they've underperformed, haven't they? They have been a team that you've looked at and they sold Gyökeres and Harmer and then invested it really well last year. They've got stability in the management. They've got stability in the squad. Even after that turnover, they've invested well again. Ellis Sims, towards the end of the season, really started to hit some form. So where they are in the table, I would be absolutely shocked if that's where they end up. I think they'll go on a really good run and they'll end up near the top 6. I can't remember the last time we had a good performance against them. So does that mean we're due one, or does it just mean they're a bit of a bogey team now? But I think what you were saying there is really interesting. And under JDT, I always queried us under the 2-game weeks. I always felt like energy-wise, we just couldn't play the way we wanted to play. Under Eustace, I think we've got, if we go to take it back further, we've had a bit of a 10 men against Preston. We won't have exerted ourselves as much. We've not had much travelling recently. 10 men against QPR. Again, we didn't exert ourselves very much. We had the luxury of taking players off, giving them a bit of a rest. So going into Tuesday, Saturday, right, it's a long trip to Plymouth, but I think Eustace will manage this better. I really do. And the way we are playing our style of football doesn't mean there's no way we're running quite as much as we did under JDT. The fullbacks, yes, Carter worked up and down, and that second half he was getting forward, but it's not at the same intensity you would suggest. I haven't looked at the stats, but you would suggest it's not the same intensity that Thomason asked them to play at. And I think it's more sustainable. It's not meaning that we're not trying. I think it's more sustainable, and I think there's more chance of us being able to replicate how we play Tuesday to Saturday. So, in illness aside, we've pretty much got a full squad. I'd be disappointed if we don't go and get something out of both games, but it's the Championship. Equally, if we go and get 0 points, it wouldn't surprise you, would it? Let's be honest.
No, I hope you're right. I trust Eustace and the decisions he's making. It's one that like you said, it's one where we could easily go and win, but it's one that obviously we could easily go and lose. God, I don't want to make a prediction. I don't even want to ask you because it's so tough, these midweek ones. I just want us to make the right decisions in the game. So I feel like the subs are all coming at the right time at the moment. I feel like the tactical decisions are the right ones. I haven't pointed the finger at Eustace at any point. Even the Preston game, I don't think that was his fault. I just thought that the lads just didn't seem to be pressing as hard as what they should have done. And it was just silly stuff. But yeah, I just want to see us make the right decisions. I do think we do need rotation, though. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction unless you want to give one. Do you want to?
Why not?
Do you want to go on then?
Let's go 1-1.
Oh.
I'll take it. 1-1.
1-1. Do you know what? I'll take a 1-1.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd take a draw there, and like you said last week, if we can win our home games and draw our away, that is massive. That's massive. So I'd take a point anywhere away.
Absolutely. I just want us. Yeah, results are important, of course. Yeah, that's the end of the day. That is the be all and end all. But sometimes you get results and you feel like it's masking things. I don't feel like it is at the moment. Don't get me wrong. I think we're doing better than we will do over the course of the season. But I feel like what we're seeing is what we are. We're a strong team. We're all together. We all play to a plan. And when that plan works, we will win. When the other team's just better than us, we won't. As long as that continues this week, if he started tomorrow and the team comes out and he's made 5 changes and Buckley's starting and whatever, if we then lose the game, I'm not going to blame Eustace. I will keep the same energy because I think I trust him enough that there's no agendas there. He will have based it on training, on advice from the physios, from the sports science people, whatever it is, whether there's an illness, he'll have a reason he's doing it, and he will genuinely have thought that was the best team going into it. There's no agendas going on. There's no hidden things, which, let's be honest, that probably was impacting some of the team selections under JDT. So, from that basis, what happened for me. And that's a really comfortable place to be as a football fan.
Definitely, and we've had 3 clean sheets in a row. If we get a 4th, that's surely a modern record for us. I can't remember us getting that many clean sheets in a row. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one tomorrow. But it does lead on to a very long away trip to Plymouth on Saturday. Now, we had a horrendous trip to them last year, which was riddled with errors. I felt like last time we played them, they weren't the better side necessarily. We just gifted them the goals because there was that horrendous one from Pears, wasn't it? Which started my stats against him and everything. It was very interesting. But yeah, I mean, playing Plymouth hasn't exactly been fantastic either. So I think, we haven't beaten them in the last 4 times we've played them. Yeah, by the looks of things. So we'll have gone from Coventry, where hopefully we'll have got a result, to Plymouth away. Is that going to be the difficult one of the two? Because they're 16th, they're in a little bit better form. Is that the more difficult one?
I think Coventry are the better of the 2 teams. And you always feel a little bit worried, don't you, when you go into a team who's underperformed and needs something to kickstart their season. I always go back to West Ham under, I think it might have been Glenn Roeder. They hadn't won until we played them in December, and you just know what's coming. So I always worry about things like that. But in terms of away trips, is Plymouth more difficult? I mean, it's a very long trip on a coach, isn't it? We've not heard that mentioned for a while. So that's what Thomason pretty much blamed it on, didn't he, last time? He said the coach journey down was too long and the players were too tired and they couldn't keep going. So it'd be interesting if they're too tired and can't keep going this time.
Well, I don't want to jinx us, but there's not many errors at the moment from us. And yeah, I've just jinxed us, haven't I? Under JDT, I felt like there was always an error. We always invited too much pressure at the back. Whereas under Eustace, there is a willingness to go into that 2nd and 3rd level with the ball. It's like, do you know what? It's not working. Let's just kick it up the field, reset our formation, and win the ball back if we haven't got it. So the Plymouth game, when we played them, there were errors. We did gift them the ball. So I don't buy into that tiredness whatsoever. It was just silliness. I think the Coventry game is going to be a big indicator on this one. I think if we get a draw against Coventry, I think going into the Plymouth game, he will probably sit back and try and get a point there. I think if we lose the Coventry game, I think he's probably going to try and come out a little bit more against Plymouth. But yeah, it's just the Championship. I hate predicting stuff. I just hope that we get through the Coventry game without any extra injuries, to be honest.
Yeah, I think if you come away knowing your team's tried the best, things happen in the Championship, and you come out of them pretty unscathed injury-wise. Well, they're 2 difficult games, aren't they? You couldn't win if we come away with 0 points, really. I know we will do, because that's what you just do. But they're 2 difficult games in the context of a season.
Yeah, if we get anything out of them, I'll be happy. Have you got a prediction for this one? Do you want to put your neck on the line? Let's say that we've got the 1-1 draw against Coventry. You're right on that one. What's your prediction on the Plymouth one?
2-0 Rovers.
Whoa, I'm loving this positive, Mark. I'm predicting 2 draws. I think we're going to stay unbeaten. We're going to get 2 draws, and we're all going to be positive, saying, well, we're drawing our away games, bring on the home games. That's my prediction anyway. But Mark, do you have a quiz for us this week?
Certainly do. I certainly do. So this is our Retro Rover preamble. I give you a bit of a riddle, and then we talk about the player after. So if you can guess him, crack on. Okay. From Paris to Berlin. I'm not going to break into song, don't worry. From Paris to Berlin, dance to my beat as the biggest Russian doll. I returned to close the hoops before I became a villain. Lots of villains going on here, mate. From Paris to Berlin, dance to my beat as the biggest Russian doll. I returned to close the hoops before I became a villain. Got it?
I think so. I think so. If you've got it, put it in the comments down below and let us know when you got that. But yeah, we'll get the answer on that one a bit later on. But we're just going to move into a topic now. Now, we sold Sam Schmodix. He left us. Dak left us after his injuries. They played very similar positions to our new boy Todd Cantwell.
Mm-hmm.
I want to now talk about what do we think the future of Cantwell's going to be. It's very early on in his Rovers career. We've seen glimpses of him. We know his history. We know what he's capable of at other clubs. What's your prediction in a Rovers shirt? Where do you think he's going to go? Because we've got some club legends that have played that position. Schmodix will go down as a cult hero. Dak will go down as a cult hero. Is Cantwell going to be on the same track?
I think the short answer is that the future of him at Rovers will be whatever Todd Cantwell wants it to be. But I think looking beyond that, he has clearly come to Blackburn Rovers not for the money. He's clearly come because they've said, listen, if you're performing, we'll give you the stage to perform, and then we won't stand in your way. So I don't think either way he'll be at Rovers very long. I think it'll be 2 years max. He's going to be more of a Dak than a Schmodix, isn't he? He's going to be one that even when he's not scoring, you feel like he probably should be in the team because of his performance levels. That said, I think Dak may well have been more consistent for us, but Cantwell's got something. Whereas Schmodix was all about the goals, all about his energy. And we questioned him this time last year, didn't we? Whether if he's not scoring, should he be playing? I don't think we'll have that debate with Cantwell. It'll all be about his influence on the game. He's going to be a bit more frustrating. There's going to be times where you think you could be doing more than this. You should be influencing games more. I just think there's so much quality there. If he's prepared to come to Blackburn, that tells me he's got the hunger to get back to where he thinks he should be. So on that basis, a hungry Todd Cantwell is going to be a bloody good asset to the club. I think we might get 2 years out of him, and hopefully, in some ways, he goes on for big money because it means he's performed really well. We've got some big money, and that's a successful couple of years. I can't see him being with us longer than that either way, because he's either going to perform at a really high level or not at all and find himself. If he's not performing and not working hard, he won't be in Eustace's team, really. So then he won't stay long either. A bit like Sigerson.
Well, he's at an age now where he does need to decide on his own career. I love how you put it about, Todd Cantwell will go as far as Todd Cantwell will push himself to be. He has this opportunity now to rebuild his career after Rangers because, he wasn't that bad at Rangers, but the fans obviously all moaned about him. There was something that they weren't happy about, but he had opportunities to go to, to really push on in his career and make Rangers, which, for all due respect for the SPL, it's not where players go to build their careers. Now he's with us. He has to now decide, doesn't he? Is he going to be the player that he should be? And sales like Schmodix, where we haven't stood in his way and we've let him go. A lot of people said for too small a fee. We've let Wharton go. We've let all these players move on, and it really advertises the club that we are at that stage, as you said, that players can come in and do it. And he's an exciting player. You can tell by his body shape and his movement and his vision. He's always looking for that killer ball. And whether he'll get an assist or not, or like you say, an assist or a goal or any kind of goal involvement, he's obviously going to be involved in the attacking play just because he's got that creative head on him, hasn't he? He knows that if he plays it to this player, then that's going to open up. And that's what we saw with Dak. Dak, you could tell he saw everything, like the radar at the bottom of FIFA, you know, like when you see all the players going around, you could tell Dak had that vision. Like, if I play him there, that's going to go there. And he was 2 or 3 steps ahead. And that's why sometimes Dak got frustrated, because he was playing with players that weren't at that level. I feel like Cantwell now, he's going to be playing with players with us that he can unlock a lot of their potential. And I want to see him play with like a Sigurdsson, because Sigurdsson, I feel like, might be unlocked with someone like a Cantwell. I think Dolan could really press on and learn a lot from his kind of play. And then obviously you've got your Rohashes and your Gahis. I think it's really exciting. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be, he stays with us with a couple of years. I do think he's going to be a success for us. I think he will go down as a cult hero and he will move on and we'll make some money out of him. The question is his attitude, isn't it? Now, why has he got this reputation? Because I haven't seen it in the past. I've seen him be a little bit arrogant on the pitch, but he seems to have earned that right to do it. So why has he got this reputation?
I spoke to the Norwich fans about it, and they said it was all around him sulking. They said he didn't influence games as much as they would like, but he was younger. But main reason that he got this there was because he sulked when they didn't let him go. And he'd said, and it was all around, was it Villa that were interested? He'd said he'd spoken to the club and said, listen, I want to go back to the Premier League. And they'd agreed basically a price of, we'll let you go if we reach this. That was apparently agreed verbally. It was reached and they still wouldn't let him go. So Cantwell then had a little bit of a, well, if you're going to do that, what's the point? You're standing in my way, blah, blah, blah. Rangers, he's gone, hasn't he? He's performed pretty well first couple of years, but then new managers come in and reading between the lines from what Cantwell said, the managers obviously told him he wants him to do a different job, which is interesting because you would imagine that Eustace would have had a similar conversation because the only things I can think he's saying are you need to do a job for the team at times. You might be out on the left-hand side. All the things that Baker actually struggled with at Stoke. He complained at Stoke because he was pushed onto the left-hand side. So far at Rovers, he's been there. So I can't imagine Eustace is lying to these people and saying, oh, no, I'll never do that, and then putting them there. I just think they must like his honesty. They must like the fact that the club have they will give him a platform and they will allow him to move on equally. And actually, we need him to, because other than him and Hayden Carter, there's not that much in the squad in terms of value. I think you're right about him unlocking some of the potential in the team, though. I actually think Hash's movement will really benefit from Cantwell's vision. I think that's one that we've been missing, that player who can spot that through ball. I hope we go and either Cozy Dewberry turns into the player we want, or we go and recruit in January, because we are missing someone with real, genuine pace. I'm not saying Adam Armstrong, but the role that Armstrong played from the wing and that Brereton did for a while, we don't seem to have that threat in behind other than Ohashi. So that's an element that we need to improve. But for me, the big question is where he will play, because the natural suggestion is number 10. But Dolan's role in this team is really important. The way he presses, and I can't imagine, certainly not going to be natural to Todd Cantwell to do that as a number 10. So it's going to be interesting.
Okay, so that leads on to the mailbag question from Dom David, who said, love the channel. Thank you very much. Do you think we are stronger with Cantwell as a 10 and move Dolan to the wing?
I would have said yes until I rewatched the game at weekend, because I was really curious why you would put Cantwell on the left initially and not Dolan. Because, yes, he had a free role, but you could still have a free role in the 10. And that's when I really noticed, when I watched it back, that Dolan's the man who triggers the press, and you can't do that from out wide. So if that's got to change if we put Cantwell there. Now, he's talked about, Eustace, that the build-up had to change because Carter was playing at right back, and that they couldn't build up in the same way they were with Britain, which is why initially put Hedges on the right-hand side, if you remember, when Carter moved to right back a couple of games ago. So I'm not saying he can't change that. I'm not saying somebody else can't be that trigger, but he obviously really likes Dolan in that role, doesn't he? And let's be honest, we're unbeaten so far, so you wouldn't change that. Would I foresee Dolan staying in that role ahead of Cantwell? It's going to really change the way we play, isn't it? If Cantwell stays on the left, really change it. It'll be very
he's
interesting.
obviously someone that likes to cut inside, though, isn't he?
He is, but it's going to mean that the fullback's going to have to do an awful lot of overlapping. Otherwise, you're going to be so condensed in the middle of the park. And if teams just sit in a bank of 4 when they've got 11 men, they will be able to cause games against you because it'll just get too condensed. So that's where Hedges' role was quite key at weekend. And you're going to need something like that. Now, Pickering might well still be unwell. It'll be very interesting, won't it, the lineups in the next couple of games. It'll tell us a lot. Would it surprise me if Hedges started at left back against Coventry? I'd say it'd be a bold move, but it'd be a very interesting one. Because could you do that from the start? Why not?
Well, it's turning into a bit of a problem there, isn't it? But I think going back to Cantwell, he's a luxury player. I haven't seen him defend yet. I don't think. I can't remember any moments where I've seen him really bust a gut to track back. But he's come in when we've been on the front foot. Yeah. So what's going to be interesting is him in the team when our backs are against it and he's having to actually do some dog work, because he does feel like a little bit of a luxury player. Considering he's quite slight, he does seem like he has a little bit of strength about him. I mean, is he slight? Would you say he's a slight player? He doesn't look huge, but he doesn't look, I don't know.
Equally, I've seen him already. He's very clever in his body positioning. So the moment somebody's coming in, he turns himself so he's square on with his back to them. So their contact is in his back, which is always a foul. So he doesn't necessarily get involved in that physical battle. He's not going to be shoulder to shoulder with somebody. He turns himself really clever, which means their contact's no longer a shoulder to shoulder. It's in his back and he's down. Free kick. Great. He will win a lot of free kicks. He will. He's
you can see him scanning the pitch as well. He's always looking for that space to move into. So, like, he does take that touch, and like you say, when people get tight, like, he will go down and just get that free kick.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is he's almost Grealish-like, isn't he? I'm not saying he's as good as Jack Grealish, but he's Grealish-like, and Grealish no longer plays in that 10 role. He plays out wide. And all the things that you would say about Cantwell, Grealish, can he defend? He slows the game down too much. Actually, it works quite well with Grealish out there on the left. So maybe that is the conversation they've had. Maybe they see that as his role. Hopefully.
We said that this signing was exciting when it happens. We talked about it. We knew the kind of player he could be. And so far, I've seen glimpses of what I hoped. I'm not too sure how far away we are from seeing starting. I don't think we're going to see him start in the next 2 games. Do you think we could see him start?
So what's he played now? He played 20 minutes first game or so, half an hour at Preston, was it? Less than that. He's played 60 minutes, I think, at Carlisle and then 45 at weekend. Could he start? Well, it's not could. But yeah, I think if he was going to do, I think it'd be Tuesday. On the back of that performance, on the back of the Blackburn end serenading him with a new chant that I am absolutely loving. Yeah.
Do you want to give us a rendition or are you going to keep it to yourself?
Let's just chase the sun, innit? I'll tell you what, if he has another outstanding performance, I'll sing it. Head over to our TikTok. The video's on there. Not of me doing it, don't worry.
But no, I have got a feeling that we've got a few cult heroes in the team now. Your Gaye's, your O'Hashes, your Cantwells. It seems like we've got some excitement now in that final third. It was all on Schmodix last year, and it was all dog work from him. You could tell there was a frustration from him that he was the one pressing all the time, and he was propping up, getting the goals. But it does feel like that's all being the responsibility's been spread out amongst other players. I do want to see Hedges do more. I want to see more of Sigurdsson. I just want to see Sigurdsson play exciting forward football that I think he can play. And then Dolan, I want him to carry on simplifying his game, doing what he did at the weekend, things like that. And we could have a very exciting final third going on with the likes of Cantwell unlocking, with the likes of Dolan being able to beat a man and get the ball in or even take a shot. And like you say, Cantwell work well with Ohashi. It's the question mark for me is probably Gay, because Gay looks like the kind of guy that would prefer a cross. But I think we should be excited.
Absolutely. I'll be honest. I've seen very little of Cantwell in the first game. At Preston, he played a bit deeper, but it was a very difficult game to judge. On Saturday, I really saw what the fuss could be about, and that really did excite me. He just looked a cut above. He looked like you could see why he'd been talked about in such glowing terms, and that's really whetted my appetite for more.
And if it wasn't for Nardi, he would have got a goal. His movement, his vision, his passing, his instincts as well. He's got a lot about him. Like I said earlier on, when the ball's coming towards him, his body shape of wanting the ball to take it on the turn, like you said about putting his body in the way of the defender, it's all very intelligent play. And I just hope he builds on it. I hope that when we have a game where the backs are against it, he's the one putting the graft in, because that's what made Dak and Schmodix the cult heroes that they were. It wasn't just the goals. It was the effort that they put in. They played for the team. They played for the badge. And that's all you want to see. You know, we've followed this club since birth, and that's all we ask these players to do when they come in and they're taken away, just to give absolutely everything. And he has it in him now to be a new hero for this club.
100%. And you could already see the defenders dropping off him. He got the ball out wide and they didn't want to commit. That tells you the respect he's earning on the field. But he won't earn the respect of his teammates if he's not working hard as well. I think that's the one thing I feel quite comfortable with, is that if he's playing, the team must be comfortable with him, and Eustace. He's going to have to work hard enough. So if he's not playing, equally, I'm not going to grumble, because it will be for the right reasons. Rovers love people who work hard and have quality. That's when you become a cult hero. If you have one or the other, they'll forgive you if you work hard and you've not got that much ability. If you do have loads of ability and you don't work hard, they won't forgive you.
Well, it benefits everyone if he does well. If we're going to have this unbeaten season where we get promoted as title winners, he's going to be a big one in that. So it does lead to another mailbag question that we've got. How many points will we end the season with? That's a very difficult question from Chris Lost Chris on Twitter. I don't like to predict these kind of things. I'm just going to say we're going to get more points than last season.
Okay.
And all I know is I feel like this season's going to be better than last season. And it's crazy for me to say that when my initial predictions were, please don't get relegated.
Well, I don't know what you're making a fuss about, Mike. Hold on, just let me get my calculator out. 46 times 2. 92.
Well, there we go. So we're being promoted as champions, according to Mark. I'm up for that. Clip it, save it, bookmark it, because when we do, Mark can be smug on that one. So any questions for the mailbag, stick them in on X. We had a couple of people saying about how sometimes they miss that, but you put it in the comments as well. We read all the comments. We pick questions out of that. You might make a comment and we build a question based on your comment. So all these comments, all these responses on Twitter, we do read them. We're also putting some posts out there as well, which are conversation pieces that we can pick stuff from in future pods. There was one that Mark's put out today to do with Barclaysman. We all dream of a team of Barclaysmen, because I still stand by that. Rovers have the best Barclaysman, XI out of anyone. So yeah, stick them all on there. It's all conversation pieces, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. But Mark, moving on to Retro Rovers. Do you want to give it to us again?
Of course. So, from Paris to Berlin, dance to my beat as the biggest Russian doll. I returned to close the hoops before I became a villain. And it is, of course, my...
Big Chris Samba.
Of course it is. So
What a player.
From Paris to Berlin, he was born in the outskirts of Paris. Also, we picked him up from Hertha Berlin. Dance to my beat, Samba beat, as the biggest Russian doll. Obviously, he went off to Russia. I returned to close the hoops, QPR, before I became a villain. Little spell at Aston Villa as well for him, just to annoy Mike. What a player. Yeah.
Unexpected. Unexpected, wasn't it? When we get these players, not necessarily heard of them, they're not on necessarily even on Football Manager, and you get them and you just like, who's this fella? And he was so huge, and he was just so good. He did exactly what needed to be done. He struck up an amazing partnership with Nelson, and could you say that they're one of the best centre-back pairings we've ever had, or especially in modern Rovers history? And then obviously the plan B was chuck him up front and let him win some headers at the end. But what a brute! But what a great player, great guy as well.
Spot on, Matt. I think I remember he signed, and you look on Wikipedia because you've never heard of him. He comes from Hertha Berlin. He's played 20 games for Hertha Berlin in 3 years. He played for their second team before that. You're thinking, we don't need this bloke. We've got Ryan Nelson, Andre Ayer, Kiznishley, Andy Todd. Why do we need someone who can't even get in the Hertha Berlin team for, what was it, 400 grand? He made his debut at Luton with Stephen Warnock, FA Cup. Obviously, absolutely huge is the first thing you notice. Just glides across the pitch. They couldn't get the ball off him. But he had, the classic phrase, isn't it? He had a good touch for a big man. But that goal at Tottenham, that was not just a defender. That was an amazing finish. And anyone who's not, obviously ours is the best podcast out there, but anyone who's not watched the latest Tippy Tappy Football from Big Sam, he's on there. And he talks quite openly about Venkis, about what was going on at the time, about Steve Keane. Talks about Big Sam, talks about playing up front. He played up front as a kid. Didn't know that he grew up and he was on the streets sleeping rough as a youngster. And he's got 3 boys, and 2 of them, Mike, are on the books of an academy club. And even though he was a coach at Rovers U teams for a bit, they're at Man City. It's really upset me. I think we need to go and have a little word with him. I'll volunteer you instead of me, though.
No loyalty nowadays, is there? How tall is he?
He's only 6'4", according to Wikipedia. He looks bigger than that. But yeah. Ryan Nelson was everything.
Yeah, but, there were 2 unexpected signings, weren't they? Because both of them came from nowhere. And to have the careers that they did with us and then go on to still play after us, it was so unexpected. But that's why you trust your scouting teams, isn't it? And I just remember that he's definitely a Barclaysman in my eyes. I think he makes a lot of people's teams maybe of the noughties. I'd say a lot of people loved him that much. I can't think of many centre backs that would beat Nelson and Samba from the noughties that played for Rovers. Really, can you think of anywhere you'd say actually they'd beat Nelson and Samba into the team?
I think you'd make a case for Henningberg and Craig Short as a partnership. The experience they had, and Berg was a quality footballer, wasn't he? And they got us promoted, and that first season back up. I know they didn't both play all the time then, but obviously we went on to win the Worthington Cup. year after, they were still mainly playing, and we got in Europe under Souness. But that Mark Hughes team was one of my favourite Rovers teams. And I sort of judge it that which players have you got in your team, if you pick a team, from an era, would have got in most other teams. So Friedel, for example, would have got in most Premier League teams at that time. We've obviously had Duff that would do that. Samba fits that builder. Chris Samba, he talked about it on there. There's strong links to Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, which tells you he can play football as well. He would have got in most teams. I mean, God, can you imagine Man United signing him now? That's exactly what they need. He'd still, if you could pick him up now, he would still fit in the Premier League. So that's when you know that you've got a real quality player, not just a good player for you. You've got a really good Premier League footballer.
Definitely a cult hero.
Absolutely.
It was an era. It was part of an era where we was proud to be Rovers fans. Like we said about this whole Barclaysman thing, he was part of squads where you could just pick players out from left, right, and centre, and they all seemed destined to go on to bigger things than us. With all due respect to Blackburn, and we are a club that has kind of been below the top level, and you do expect a lot of our players to go up, and he was one that took the money to go to QPR. I was devastated when he left us. He didn't go to QPR. Where did he go?
Went to Russia, didn't he? Outside of a transfer.
What's the name
window.
of that place?
Anzi.
Yeah. So when he took the money to go there, I was a bit gutted, but it's football, isn't it? It's what happens.
He talked about that on the pod, and he says about how Arsenal were coming in for him, and there's other teams, and he said the club was just changing around him. He said, I looked around, and there was pretty much one day just me and Morton. Everyone else had gone. Edmonton had gone. Robinson had gone. Friedel had obviously gone. Nelson had gone. Warnock had gone. Emerton had gone. Oyer had gone. So that was just like, what's going on? He said it was only going one way. He said the Phil Jones transfer affected him though, because they'd sold Phil Jones for big money. They didn't need to, and also they'd sold Phil Jones as a centre half, so they weren't willing to let Samba just go. And we all know what Venky's are like in terms of their set of value. Doesn't matter whether you have 2 minutes left on your contract; they're not letting you go for less than they believe is right.
But we'll finish on a positive. It was an amazing player. He was part of a fantastic era for us. A great retro Rovers. It was a good one. But Mark, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. Once again, we've chatted the ear off of all the listeners. It's good being a Rovers fan at the moment, isn't it? Are we still going to be positive in a week's time?
Yeah. I'm going to keep this energy. I'd be very surprised. We are jinxing this today, but I'd be very surprised if I was disappointed with the level of both performances. I might be disappointed with the outcome. It might be a bit flat, might be a bit boring, but I don't think that we're going to dramatically change. So on that basis, it's still been a good start. If we lose both games, I'll go, you know what? 9 games in, we've had a good start. We've had a better start than we could have hoped. So, but I fully expect us to go and get something from at least one of the games.
Yeah, we've got to look at the big picture, haven't we? We're doing way better than we thought we would. So, whatever happens, let's all remain positive. We're positive. Like and subscribe. Do all the good stuff below. Share. The more you share, the more we can do and get out there for you. So, keep following us, and we'll keep putting the content out. But Mark, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. And there was a couple of comments last week, Mark, about my Wi-Fi. I wired it in last week, thinking it would make it better. It made it more unstable. If anybody is around the Blackburn area and wants to come and donate to my hamster wheel that's keeping my Wi-Fi going, feel free. Obviously, we're not as fortunate as when you get further down south and you have running water and everything, I believe, down there.
Well, you've only just discovered fire in the wheel up in Lancashire, haven't you? So, I mean, when I come to see family, I'm looking around and you've still got Spitfires and everything in the sky, but, you'll get there eventually up there, won't you? But no, it's good, Mark. I've enjoyed it, but I'll see you next time.